Welcome to Rebuilding Through and After Trauma, a podcast of healing, hope, and growth. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my first ever guest. And her name is Sinead Staunton. And Sinead Staunton is a reflexologist and a holistic practitioner here in Galway. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. So welcome, Sinead.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, no worries. Thanks for coming on. So just give a brief, introduction of, again, who you are, and again, some of the stuff that, again, within your business as well.
Yeah. So my name is Sinead. I am situated in just outside Kiltulla in Galway, and I have a reflexology and holistic therapy business. I provide reflexology for adults and children and babies, and I also do facial reflexology, Indian head massage, aromatherapy. I run mother and baby reflexology groups in Loughrea, and hopefully at the weekend I'll be qualified in bioenergy as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So many achievements there, and so much growth there as well. Like, one, you could see all of the things that, have kind of spiraled in as well to help other people
Yeah.
along that journey. So
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, go on.
I wasn't always a reflexologist, like it didn't just happen overnight. So I was a preschool teacher for 11 years before I did this.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, it wasn't always the path.
Yeah, but look at it now.
Yeah.
And I suppose, look at, even if we look at that, then, what, specific events or, kind of series of events in your life that kind of triggered you to go down this, or again, triggered you or again brought you down this path of helping others, of healing, and moving yourself forward in that growth.
Yeah, like I suppose I always had an interest in them. Like when I was a teenager, I always had trouble with my stomach and nobody could ever get to the bottom of it. And my mom used to take me to holistic people all the time. But I suppose I never really understood it. And then it was later in life, 5 years ago, I had a stillborn baby. And it was from then that I really started to have the treatments, that I went looking for them myself.
Okay, so
Um,
that's you went looking for them. Did you find, that in that time, of the grief, that you needed to outsource it, or was there, some help there that kind of helped you, but yet you knew there was something else that you needed?
yeah, like, well, I suppose for me and for my husband, our loss was early on. I was only 20 weeks. So um, that's still classed as a miscarriage. It's
Oh,
I
okay.
don't like to say that because I still had to go in and deliver and give birth. And so to
Wow.
me, that wasn't a miscarriage. I'd had four miscarriages before this. So to
Wow.
me, this was different.
Trauma was there before that, even as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So to me, this was different. So I call it a stillbirth. And it just helps me that little bit more. But yeah, there was a lot of support. Like we got great support from Portiuncla. We got great support from Féileacáin.
Mm.
Um, but because I was only the 20 weeks, I wasn't entitled to a maternity leave or anything like that. So I was lucky. I was a preschool teacher. The boss I had at the time, she was so understanding. So I took a couple of weeks off. Um, but then I kind of felt guilty for being off. Like, what was I off for? Do you know? Um, and I felt like everybody was maybe now I know they weren't, but I felt like everybody's like, oh, sure, what's she doing off? Like, what is she for doing? So I went back to work in the September. Um,
And did you
and
feel at that time, like if we take the pathological emotion, the guilt out of it, did you feel that you were ready to go back, or you just it was that, like, that guilt that kind of brought you back, more than kind of the I'm ready to go back?
I don't know, was I ever going to be ready? Looking back now, I suppose at the time I was like, my the lady I worked for, she was so understanding and she told me to take all the time I needed. But, what did I need? I didn't know, like. So I did go back, but I used to go to the beauticians and I'd have a facial or a massage, and it was her who encouraged me to go and have reflexology.
Okay.
And at the time, I had pneumonia and was struggling. I couldn't get rid of it. And it was the reflexologist picked up on my lung and asked me had I any underlying grief. And this lady didn't know me, like, and it absolutely blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God, how can she tell that from just looking at my feet? Like, if you'd have told me 6 years ago that reflexology would be my thing, I would have laughed. I hated feet, hated everything about it.
Touching people's feet.
Yeah. Not to mind touching people's feet. I hated people touching mine. But I got so much from it. And the lady suggested that I do 6 sessions once a week for 6 weeks. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I had nothing to lose. At this stage, it was December. So we had the baby in July. I went back to work in September. In December, I was having nightmares. I was really anxious all of the time. I was having panic attacks. I have an older son. I wasn't able to let anybody look after him. I wasn't able to leave him out of my sight. I had to know where he was all the time. So I decided that I needed to take a break from work. I couldn't keep it all going. And my husband was just great. He held it all down for us. And I took that time and had the reflexology once a week for 6 weeks. And I couldn't believe the difference in my body. And the only way I can explain it is I didn't feel like the inside of my body was on a hamster wheel all the time. It just felt like it came back into balance, is what I know now. But at the time, I couldn't explain it.
Yeah. And did you feel that sense of calmness? Like that when you say the hamster wheel again, the adrenaline, the cortisol, everything that was running through the body every day, and on that, in that fight or flight, freeze response. Was it like when we talk about balance? I suppose we know when we balance the energies, we bring that calmness. But did you feel that? Did you feel that calmness?
Yeah.
After the sessions.
Like even after the first session, I slept better, and every session I noticed something more. And then at the end of my 6 sessions, I actually found out I was pregnant again, which sent me into complete overdrive altogether. So yeah, it was the same thing happened all over again. The reason we lost the baby was I had caught a virus, a childhood virus called slap cheek, which is very rare for a pregnant woman to get because normally you're immune. But when I was probably about 8 or 10 weeks pregnant, my son got it again, the second time around. So that triggered everything inside me all over again.
Into the trauma, back into right back
in
that moment.
Yeah, and it was almost a year to the day.
Wow.
But anyway, I got through it and have a lovely daughter now as well. So I have a son and a daughter. And during the time while I was pregnant, I went back having reflexology again, and I decided that I just wanted to learn it as a hobby, had to know how it worked. So I started studying it, and the same with the essential oils, because those two were my starting point.
Always something that brings you into the draw. For me, it was the essential oils. I thought I was going to sell essential oils for the rest of my life. That's why I left my job, to sell essential oils. That didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I studied the two of them side by side. I studied a diploma in reflexology and a diploma in aromatherapy because I wanted to know, like, my brain likes to understand things. So I wanted to know how they worked, and it just really organically grew from there. How it helped me and extended then into my family.
Yeah. And through those, those challenges that came up, and again, obviously, having that, fear, we call it fear with Aoife as well, like, and carrying her. Did you use the oils through that as well? Through the pregnancy, and you did the reflexology as well through that pregnancy?
Like at the start, I had stopped having the reflexology because really, I suppose I just kind of lost myself in the fear again. And I was about 30 weeks when I started having the reflexology again. Um, and it just brought me right back to that feeling. I was calm. My delivery was much better. It just, everything went smoother.
What was the
Um,
turning point that Sinead says, this is it? I'm gonna jump in. I'm on the bandwagon of all of this and just help others. It isn't, and I do believe, I do believe that, we do have to go through, and I'm not saying we all have to go through trauma, but we do all go through, stuff. And when we learn, then how to cope, or we learn coping mechanisms, or we learn, there becomes a turning point that we say, wow, like this stuff is amazing. This stuff works. We're not here to diagnose, we're not here to prescribe, we're just here to get in to tell true life stories. That what people have used in their lives, along with, again, alternative medication, and anything that comes with, grief and bereavement and stuff like that. What do we call them? Like anything that the hospital give and stuff like
yeah,
that. It's all
yeah.
in conjunction.
I think everything has a space. Like, I
Yeah.
did work along with my GP as well after Aoife was born. She was 3 weeks old and she ended up back in hospital with the RSV virus and spent a week in hospital on oxygen. And I just thought, oh my God, here we go again. Um, and then in the January, I like when we were leaving hospital with Aoife at 3 weeks, she was 4 weeks old then. The hospital were like, keep her at home, don't let anybody near her,
Wow.
she'll be susceptible to the virus again. So all I heard was keep her at home, don't let anybody near her.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I wasn't able to leave the house. I was able to leave the house, but I wasn't able to bring her with me.
Okay.
And I just knew that it wasn't right. Like, so I went to my GP and she was fantastic. So she set me little goals every week, like to go to a baby class, a mother and baby class or something like that, or go to the shop. And every week I would go back and yeah, I joined a mother and baby group in Loughrea. And that was a real turning point for me because I just loved getting back out there.
Yeah.
Um, and then,
The
and
connections
then,
with people as well.
yeah, yeah. And it was just normal life. And I was excited then to have a baby and, all of that. But then in March, we went into lockdown.
Yeah, that's right. Gee.
It was just crazy. Like,
Another
um,
virus, another virus to put
another
into.
virus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my trigger, was a virus,
We
always.
can see that, even listening now to your story, we can see that, it puts you back into that trauma, back into that, fight or flight response.
Yeah.
How do I keep them safe? You
Yeah.
know,
Every
how
time.
do I
Yeah.
keep safe?
So
Yeah.
like I loved being at home during lockdown. I had them exactly where I wanted them and
Nice
there
and
was nothing
comfortable.
anybody could do about it. I had to keep them at home. Um, but it was maybe April when things weren't really lifting and the lockdowns, and things were getting tighter and we couldn't go anywhere. That I realized that it wasn't right.
Yeah.
And listening to other people and how much they were struggling. And I was so happy. Um, that I realized, if I don't do something now, I'm not coming out of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when I joined your online meditation circle.
Circle, that's right.
Yeah, and stay there for 2 years in that circle. But it
That's
was,
the biggest circle ever.
um,
Endless circle.
but it was during that I really found who I was as a person. Like all that time, I had lost everything that I was. Um, I stopped going out with my friends. I stopped everything, and it wasn't on purpose.
No. Yeah.
It was just that the whole stress, the anxiety, everything just took over my body, and I couldn't do it.
And the
Um,
mind goes, the body goes into that, again, back into that fight, flight, freeze response. And sometimes then, when the the prefrontal cortex goes, flips the lid, we can't really focus. We don't really know. We
yeah,
kind of lose a sense of self then, because it's like, well, who am I in this? And a lot of people would have had that again through COVID, but you had all, the underlying issues of, well, this is safe, but yet why do I feel so, why is there a void in it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I suppose I just, through doing all the activities that you were giving us in the circle, doing the meditations, and then I started with CBT, and those activities pushed me forward even more.
I remember the change in that. Well, I remember the change, again through the meditations, and listen to other people's stories. I think in the inner circle was powerful that time as well, because we all got our the 1 hour meditation that every husband says was like, see you in 3 hours, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, but
um,
it was the connection again.
yeah, I think the energy between everybody, and it was such a safe place as well.
Yeah.
That everybody just got to speak, and sometimes, it wasn't that thing of, well, I never felt it anyways. It wasn't that thing of like, oh, jeez, thank God, I'm not too bad. But it was that aha moment that, like, everybody has their stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody, including me, because a lot of people heard my stories as well.
But even though everybody's story was different, it still related to you, that you were able to take something from it.
Absolutely.
And doing that every week just kept pushing me forward and forward. And it was then when I started doing my case studies in the reflexology, and I saw that I was actually able to help people, and the benefits that other people were getting, that I was like, God, maybe I could do this. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what else did you like? The meditations. I know we were doing a lot of meditations. We were doing a lot of values and boundaries. So a lot of the journaling would have come in there. A lot of writing.
Yeah, well, journaling was a big thing for me always, but I didn't realize that I was journaling. Like all through, from the very start of the whole situation with the baby, when we were waiting on tests and appointments, I used to write it all into my phone.
Okay.
How I was feeling, because I didn't know how to, like, I didn't want to be telling other people and worrying them. And, like, me and my
You
husband
get it
talked
out.
about it, but we didn't talk about it with anybody outside of us, because, nobody had been through it, nobody got it. So I used to just write it into my phone. Sometimes I would delete it all again, because I didn't want
Was
anybody to
that
read it.
releasing the power of letting go? Was it?
um, But then I started journaling in a more positive way. So this is going back 2018, like before it really became a thing, because I think during COVID everybody started.
Everybody started journaling. I think definitely for me, what you call him, oh, Pat Divilly.
Oh
Just
yeah.
before COVID, I had gone to an event with Pat Divilly, and he was like mad into journaling. And again, like that, I would have journaled. You would have called it a diary.
Yeah,
You would have gone, don't let anybody look at it for the fear of God of what they'd see in it. But he did a thing on. I went with Avril, my friend, and he did a section on journaling, and I was kind of like, oh, and then COVID came, and of course, then the inner circle started up, because like that, the reason why I set that up was because I needed the connection, because I would
yeah.
be a person who just needed energy all the time, and liked to be around people all the time. But then you brought out your own journal course then through your
Did,
time,
yeah.
when we were all together.
And it just was basically what I did at the start. Um, my gratitude, my intention. I found it very hard to brain dump or to journal on something. I felt bringing up the emotion always made me feel worse.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I preferred to journal on the positives in my life, setting my intention for the day to give me focus, to get me out of the slump that I was in,
Yeah.
and then to bring in my affirmations. So that's how I built the journaling workshop, was around that. And then,
And did you have a structure for that every day? So, like, let's say, even for me now, I'm up early. I have a structure. Did you have a structure, or did you find just when you had the energy, or when you felt you needed to do it, that's when you did it? Or was it, as I say, like, was it kind of this is what I got to get done first thing in the morning. Where some people, when I work with some people, they say, "Oh God, I wasn't even motivated, Sharon, to do it until like 11 or 12, but I got it done."
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was more, I think it was more gradual for me. Like I would set my intention at the start of the day, and then maybe in the middle of the day I would pick up an affirmation to keep me going. And
okay,
then in the evening I would do the things I was grateful for.
yeah,
But then when we went into lockdown, then maybe it was just before that, I started doing it at the start of the day before my workout.
yeah.
And then when we went into the inner circle, then I started doing it in the morning, getting up early and having a real structure to my day.
And it puts a shift in the energy, doesn't it? First
Oh,
thing in the morning.
yeah, yeah,
Just that shift, and like it's like I think nobody's motivated. I always say this, but I had listened to a guy on YouTube, and he's like, nobody's motivated to go to the gym. Nobody's motivated to write down, like, as soon as you wake up in the morning, 10 things I'm grateful for. you know
yeah,
so nobody, but it's the discipline of it. It's
yeah,
the discipline, because again, like that, and we've seen it from the circle, like that. We used to do the 5-5-5 mornings. Remember, we used to get
yeah.
up at 5:55 in the morning, and the amount of people that would show up in that.
Yeah.
And we
And
need
it was brilliant.
accountability.
And that gave the real structure for the day. It gave you a purpose, was
Yeah,
what was my huge thing. Um, yeah, it just once I put it all together at the start of the day, it changed. And then I found it easier to write. And now I can journal on the prompts or how I'm feeling without it dragging me down.
okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
But even with that, so let's even say, do you find, because that hamster wheel of emotion, so it's like that pressure cooker, the valve has opened because you've done so much, growth. You've made, so many changes, or become more aware actually of, the emotions. Do
Yeah.
you
And
feel like
that is definitely, it's the awareness because like it's not gone away. Like,
the
I
grief
still,
will always stay the same?
yeah. And you said that to me at the very start, your grief will always stay the same. And I said, well, what's the point? When am I ever going to get better?
What have I come to this one for?
Yeah. But it comes in waves. Like, coming up to his birthday, I'm always dreading the day, but actually it's the run up to it that's worse than the day. Or
Absolutely.
like September just gone, he should have started school.
Yeah.
Watching all the other boys and girls go to school
Yeah.
really hit me hard when I didn't think it would.
Brings you back into that, the tennis ball, and I always say this, to people, it's that, your grief and my grief is the same. It's because it's the tennis ball, different, situations, but the same. It's just that when people are in that grief, it's locked tight. And sometimes we can't feel that we're getting out of it. But over time, as we bring awareness, as we bring growth and healing, we go into bigger jars as we evolve, and we've more space to rock. But all of those things, like even for Colin was 21 years past there last year, that was huge for me, because I was 42, so that meant I was 21 years
Yeah.
without him. So
Yeah.
like straight back in, I could have went straight back into the day that he passed, So, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because we shouldn't be able. There's an analogy that gives, oh, time heals pain, and the grief will go away. Why would you want that?
Yeah.
That love and everything that you have, and the connection, and all of this thing, why would you want it to go away? You just, again, allow yourself into it, feel it, and allow yourself have the day, or the 2 days, of the grieving. And then, we go back into, right, what am I grateful for, and getting back into our structure, and having that continuous bond as well, that they're always there. I
Yeah.
know some people might be, not into that, but that's okay. But people who do believe in the continuous bond, they're all around us all the time.
And like everybody has their signs in different ways, like
Yeah,
rainbows or butterflies or
yeah.
robins or whatever it is.
And it's
Um,
lovely. It's uplifting as well
yeah,
to see them. Like, I do be getting messages. People say, "Oh, I seen a feather today. Could be a big crow's feather." Like, I'm like, "Well, you found it."
yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
But
So,
it's
and
just
again,
all about flipping the mindset. And like now, I just suppose I know now looking back that it was for a reason, and it brought me on this journey that I would never have come on. Like I always wanted to own my own business. I always thought I would open a preschool. It was always my dream. but really I was to own a different kind of business. And now my whole thing is I just want people, especially women, to know that even when things are hard and we're in the hardest of times, we can still continue to blossom and grow into something. And when I look back, like sometimes I feel guilty for the growth that I came on, but now I know that it was just this was the way it was meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And like some people say to me, do you think, Sharon, that, Colin needed to pass, for all this to happen to you? And I said, no, but that was his journey.
Yeah,
And that journey through trauma, through, shock, through trauma, and all of these other things that I had to go through came then to a space where I became okay in myself.
yeah,
I became a lot of awareness, and I do say awareness is key. And we know that, the more aware we are of our emotions, the more aware we are, that things are okay. Then the more that we're going to be more relaxed and these pathological emotions are going to be released. So yeah, so definitely, for me, it's like, I came off that point now. What was that point that you just said there?
that I wanted people to continue to grow. And
Yes. And then you come to that point where you're just like, I just want to help other people.
yeah,
People to know. And that was actually my next question. So the next question was, because we'll finish it off, and thank you so much. And I know that this will, that other people who are listening to this will be affected by it, and they can reach out 100%, and all miscarriages for me, because I was there myself, but all miscarriages for me, I believe there should be something in the hospital that help people grieve that.
yeah,
And we know, because myself and Sinead, we forgot to say that, Sinead, that we're actually business partners in fertility. So I do the hypnotherapy side of things, and Sinead does the reflexology side of things. And isn't that a lot that comes up for us? Somebody might have a miscarriage, it's not healed,
yeah,
and then there's that fear of it'll happen again. And there's
yeah.
another fear and another fear. And, so
I
again,
definitely think I definitely think the awareness is there now and people are talking about it.
yeah,
And like when I had my first miscarriage, like nobody talked about it. But it's the amount of people that go through it, you're not alone, like, and definitely there's more support in the hospitals now. I know in Portiuncula they have done incredible work.
brilliant.
They have their own suite and everything for
Yeah. You
couples to
need
go.
that.
And
You need that
yeah, yeah.
for the
They've
healing
done.
side of things.
Yeah, and then Féileacáin, if anybody
I
hasn't
put that
heard,
link actually in under this.
yeah, they can reach out. Féileacáin are fantastic and they give us so much support. So
You
there
need
is
that.
support out there, but you don't know it's there until you go this road.
Yeah. And
Um,
and isn't that it? We're
yeah,
all on healing journeys, and we're all on different. And as I say, some people will resonate with this now this evening, and will again, hopefully. And that's, my one thing for you. The question was, you know, um, that thing of what would you say to our listeners, if there's anybody listening who was in that boat, who's in that boat, but I think I'll leave you with it. You can answer it again, but I think, you said it there, like, that there is help out there, and you can
yeah.
get that
But no
change.
matter what, no matter what you're going through, no matter what grief you're going through, whether the loss of a child, the loss of an adult, the loss of a partner, the loss of a job, anything, a loss is
And
a loss.
COVID,
And
COVID brought so much grief.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just to know that even though you're going through these hard times, you can still continue to grow and something is waiting for you at the end of it. You just have to keep going.
We can see it in the moment.
Yeah,
And see it in the moment. And I do believe support is key, being around positive people, and not positive people, but again, go towards the people, that you're drawn to. And if you have that inkling, and you'll say this as well, Sinead, I know, because if you have that inkling to say there's something else, there
yeah,
has to be, keep following it.
yeah,
Following it,
definitely.
ask for the guidance, go wherever, if you just believe in it. And for me, that was that one thing, when I was in the midst of that, I was like, there has to be something else.
Yeah,
I just believed, and it was just a little tiny flame of something that says there has to be something.
Yeah.
And just keep going, keep going. Routines and stuff like that, or the positivity. I'll actually share a link as well. Just again, a nice routine for the morning where there's a little bit of journaling, the meditation, and all of that, because it is powerful, and
Yeah.
it does create the change. We have to remember our subconscious mind won't let go of those pathological emotions very easily, but
Yeah.
we know that. And we're still, and again, very much for you, Sinead, would you say that you're still on this journey, of again growth and doing the work now? It's not that you've got to where you are in your business and you're doing amazing work with people, but you know that you have to work. I know that I have to keep working on myself and doing my journaling and
Oh
doing.
yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Because you start to feel tired again, you've no motivation, you can feel the emotions coming back. You can't manage the frustration as well, or little things like that. And that's, well, they're my little signs anyway, that I know that I've let something slip. And
And you're a huge advocate for self-care, huge advocate for self-care. You're always
yeah,
posting about it, because it's important.
yeah. But like everybody hears self-care and they think they have to go to the spa or go book a holiday abroad. No, it can be something like going out for a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, sitting
Um,
having a cup of tea.
yeah, having a little Epsom salt foot bath or reading a book, whatever it is that brings joy to your life is your self-care.
Yeah, that peace, just
Yeah,
to be able to come into that heart
yeah,
for only even 10, 15 minutes a day. And the more that we get it, and that's what I say, definitely for me, the more that I get it, the more that I want it. I'm like,
yeah,
get another 10
absolutely.
minutes.
Yeah,
Get
because
another
I
10
I
minutes.
started doing a lake dip, so that was something that I've always wanted to do, like
Wow.
always.
And you stepped
And
out of your comfort zone to do that as well.
I definitely did. And but now that I'm doing it, I want to do it every day.
Yeah,
And
amazing, isn't it?
yeah, and it's not something, it doesn't cost me money. It doesn't, it's just my time.
Yeah. And that and time will that and we'll leave it on that note because but it's about time. It's about creating that time for yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely,
So
100%.
busy.
Yeah,
Working, we're so busy with the kids, we're so busy putting energy into everybody else that I don't have it. And I hear it all the time, even, with the weight release program, I don't have the time. I don't have
yeah.
the time. We have to create that time and we really do.
But I think COVID taught us to slow down and to appreciate the time, but we've very, very quickly gone back into the fast-paced world again.
But we would, because the subconscious mind anyways would bring us
Yeah.
back in there, said, oh yeah, back in, I like busyness. Whereas like we were just, I remember COVID, there's a church behind my house here. And I said, oh my God, the bells are ringing. And I said to you, man, oh, it's lovely to hear the bells every. He's like, the bells have always been ringing, Sharon. Never heard them.
Yeah,
6 o'clock was mad. Six
yeah,
o'clock in the house was just mental. So I never heard the bells until I said to him, I met him, I said, oh, the bells are lovely. In the evening now with COVID, he's like, the bells have always been ringing.
yeah,
But we were just so fast paced and then everything
yeah,
stopped and we got to listen, you know. But again, like that, sometimes, some people, we just went back into, and look, we all did in some way,
yeah,
shape, or form.
absolutely. Yeah,
But it's about creating that time.
yeah.
So, Sinead, I want to thank you so, so much. Just give us the name of your page. I want to say it right.
Uh, Soul Scent Wellness, SOLE for the sole of your foot.
Soul Info, yeah. So that's Sinead. Check her out. Her journey, through and still going through. Her own stuff and growing all the time. Is there. You're amazing to me, anyways. As always, you know that. And thank you so much for being my first guest. And I look forward to the journey ahead. That we have, and to seeing you grow, and like all the people. And I know it already because I know your energy. All the people who you've already transformed, and the people who are going to be lucky enough to meet you in the future. So
Thank you. And I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you.
I wouldn't be here without you. So thanks so much, and thanks everybody for listening. As I say, we're not here to diagnose. We're not here to tell you to do any of these things. We're just here to guide. We're here to, help, to give a little bit of information that there is things out there that might sound so simple, but they work.
Yeah.
You know, and there will be other stories that come on, and they mightn't be, there might be something else, and that's okay, because one thing isn't going to serve everybody. That's why what we like to do in our business is give people a toolbox. And that's very much my aim, is to give people a toolbox that you can come in and pick out of this toolbox, whether it's meditation or hypnotherapy or breathing exercises. We'll have so many people on who are going to give you so much awareness around that. And I look forward to the journey. So thank you, everybody. And thanks again, Sinead, and best of luck.
Thank you.